just if you're interested, the average household income of same-sex couples with children is $59,207 in comparison to $74,700 for married couples in the survey. And a statistic that I think is really interesting, and I once again don't really know what's undergirding, is that 51% of same-sex couples with kids own a home, in comparison to 77% of married couples with kids. So, and once again, if you look at the racial breakdown, you see even fewer resources in terms of at least income. And then finally, I won't spend very much time on it. According to the data, poverty is at a higher rate for children living in same-sex households, pretty much across the board. And I think there's a big poverty report that's actually about to come out this week from the Williams Institute by their policy research director, Lee Magid, who's an economist at Amherst, that will reinforce the notion that, or challenge this idea that gay people have high disposable income and are affluent. So once we look at the emerging data, we see that false stereotypes of gays and lesbians as white and affluent are used to uphold laws to discriminate against LGBTs because they are politically powerful, a politically powerful minority. We also see that the diversity and real needs of the LGBT community are being ignored by the courts. And as referencing LGBTs as having high disposable incomes. And I think that in these opinions, the representations are underlying the court's political power argument. And this social construction of race, gender, and class render low-income gays and lesbians invisible. And it also renders LGBTs of color invisible, and those at the intersections, and their families. And it's done to reinforce heterosexist principles, right? It's like, sorry, you're not going to have access. We're not going to allow you to have protection under these laws because you have the power. So I'm going to, and I have two kind of concluding thoughts I'll just mention briefly, and then just we'll open up for discussion. And two things just briefly. One, I think that the representations aren't just for the right that we see. And I think that is a discussion that the LGBT community's got to have a conversation about in terms of who we represent, who we are as a community. The limited political power I think that the LGBT community manages to harness often replicates this image of whiteness and affluence. And so I think that it's something that we should be challenging and trying to debunk that myth and reflect the diversity of the community. And I think that it's obviously a very large debate that's going on in California right now. I think it's dangerous for a couple of reasons. First, these representations facilitate the white heterosexual majority's use of race as a wedge issue against LGBT rights, while doing very little for racial justice, actually. And second, it reinforces this invisibility on a class basis and also on a race basis, reinforces this notion that people of color don't have an interest in gay rights. And obviously, as community members of the African American community or Latino community, have an interest in gay rights. The community, they're a part of the Black and Latino community. As a matter of fact, Scalia's representations of LGBTs living in high concentrated areas is completely false when you talk about race. LGBTs of color live in of-color communities, not gay communities. So I take that, and I also, one other thing I argue is that we should spend the limited resources that, I recognize are limited resources, but some of those resources should go to other issues in addition to marriage. I'm not saying that marriage is not important, but many LGBTs experience disparities in employment, income, housing, access to disability services, child care, education, immigration, poverty, and homelessness. And I think that some of those resources we should start thinking about being placed in other things. I mean, tens of millions of dollars went into California to try and combat Prop 8, and I think that at some point